Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 149. Hello, my babes. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess. I'm the host, and today is a solo show. I know you guys are probably sick of me because we just finished the 12 Days of Money Mindset series, and now we're kicking off 2020. By the way, Happy New Year. We're kicking off 2020 with a solo show, but I think this solo show is going to be one that you're going to love because I know it would be something that I would be vastly, super, definitely duper interested in listening to. And what we're going to talk about today, I wanted to have a conversation, just a very open and transparent conversation about money and specifically what my financial year looked like in 2019. So I'm going to be pulling back the curtain of my finances for 2019 in the business, in Wander Wealthy, share with you all the things that I did in 2019 that I think kind of apply, or just also sharing some lifestyle changes that happen, because I do think, especially if you're running a business, your life definitely impacts your business and vice versa. And also kind of talk about what worked, what didn't, how much did I end up making, what did I end up paying myself, and what did I invest, how much did I invest in the business. So this is going to be a good episode. I don't say this stuff and share this stuff for bragging. And I think you guys know that. Every episode that I have, especially all my interview episodes, I ask my guests about their money situation, how they make money, how they spend money, what it looks like there. And so you guys, for the most part, probably know how I make money and what I spend my money on, but maybe we'll talk about that too. And then I also wanted to apply some actual numbers to it just to show you that I also think, maybe you'll be surprised by these numbers, some of you. And I do think we need to be a little bit more, especially in the online coaching industry, a little bit more transparent about like what our reality looks like, because I think there's a lot of marketing messages out there that don't necessarily align with what the person is actually, doing in their business. So they're selling this dream without making the dream. And not to say that you can't do that. You definitely can. I think you as the teacher can still be a work in progress while you're working with other clients. And that's definitely what I do. So make sure you work on the mindset of that aspect. But I also think it's beneficial as the teacher to say, hey, this is what my reality looks like. And however comfortable, if you are a coach, if you are a teacher, however comfortable you are doing that, I invite you to do that in whatever way, shape, or form it looks like. Okay, so let's back it up to January of 2019. I can hardly even remember what that looked like for me. But in the start of 2019, I was really focused on creating YouTube videos, creating podcast episodes, and mostly launching the Invested program. That was something that I had worked on at the end of 2018, and I was really excited about the launch for 2019. I was like, this is going to be the biggest thing ever. And to be quite honest, it didn't actually launch to my expectations. I was pretty bummed about the results of that launch. I still had a ton of great people coming into the program even before the official launch happened, and then I had a handful come in during the launch, but in terms of the numbers, I thought like this is going to be the launch that I have been waiting for. And it didn't happen like that at all. So was I frustrated? Yes. I didn't have the coaching or the mindset work that I have now to really look at that and be, in a way grateful for what that turned out to be. And so I would say I kind of felt very much like I have failed. And this is not the first launch, by the way, that has not gone my way or that has not gone to plan. So it felt like yet another failure in a way. And by no means is it a failure. The program is still, to date, one of my favorite programs. And I relaunched it again over Black Friday, and a handful of people got in again. And we're seeing wonderful results with those who are inside of the program. But I mean, there's only so much you can do as a business owner, as a marketer to, get the program out there and market it and make sure you have the right messaging around it. And I think what happened with the program during my initial launch was I was really selling and focusing on, and this isn't a business podcast, but I'm going to share with you some of my business expertise and hopefully it lands. Hopefully you like it. I was really focused on selling the features and, what are you going to get with the program versus what is so much more important, so much more compelling is focusing on messaging and selling. And you can say, instead of selling, marketing the transformation. What is their life going to look like? How is it going to change their life, make their life easier, help them make more money, whatever it looks like when they buy this program? And that was a big lesson for me. And that's something that I still have to work on because I have a hard time. I'm a very analytical person. And so I like to know what the features are when I'm buying a program, but I know most people are sold on the story. Most people like to hear about, the picture. They want to know the picture that you're going to paint for them, what their life is going to look like when they go through the program. And so that's something that I continue to have to work on, but I do try more and more to apply that to my marketing and my messaging going forward in other programs and things that I am offering. So that was the kickoff of 2019, and it kind of felt like a flop in a way, but I had a lot of other things going on. I was doing the Wealthy Life Challenge, which is something I'd love to host again. I just haven't found the right time or place to do that. And that was a lot of fun. We got a lot of engagement, and I ended up getting a handful of coaching clients through that. And right around that same time, I made the first very big investment in my business, and I hired a coach. I've made a lot of I would say kind of middle of the road investments in my business before, but this was the one where it was those middle of the road investments multiple times over again, month after month after month. I hired a coach and we worked together. I actually interviewed her on the podcast, Shauna Van Bogart, and we worked together for 6 months. And so much happened in that 6 months. So I had finished up the Wealthy Life Challenge and got a couple of coaching clients from that. And then I kicked off a program that I now sell as a really low ball, it's fairly affordable program because it's just a 5-day program. But I had hosted this workshop live at the start, which was the Guilt-Free Spending System workshop. Now it's turned into a program and I sell it on my site. But at the time it was just a workshop. And I hosted the workshop, and that workshop got amazing feedback. And after that workshop, I also was able to book some more coaching clients. So by the time that, I had just started working with my coach, I was getting coaching clients just one right after the other until I was booked out. So I was booked out finally, officially, in my entirety of coaching. I was officially fully booked to the capacity that I could take on coaching clients. So I thought, I've booked out again and I have way more. But at that time, I was like, this is how many I can take. And they filled up. And I'm not going to say it was because I invested in the coach, that was the result. But I think the things that we worked on together really created that result of being able to book out these coaching clients and those programs that I offer. Another thing I did early in the year was I did some of the things around my business to really make it feel more legitimate, legitimizing my business. I've taken these steps very slowly, and I think that's something to share. Whether you're just starting your business and you're well, I have to do all these things. I have to set up my LLC. I have to work with a lawyer and get contracts. I have to set up my business bank account. I want to continue to reiterate that those things are important eventually, but do one at a time and do it so that it feels sustainable for you. It feels maintainable and financially it makes sense. For me at the start, I didn't have the capital in my business to be able to invest in an attorney to create really well drafted contracts. But the thing is, I didn't really need that. I was working with 1 to 2 clients at a time, and I found some cheap contracts online. Actually, I think I found a free money coaching contract online, and I just personalized it for me. Now, is that if you're an attorney, are you going to listen and be "Ooh, bad"? Maybe, but we have to do the things that are going to work for us. And yes, you need to make sure you're protecting yourself, but in the coaching that I was offering, the risk was fairly low at that point. And what was more important for me was just to be getting out there and bringing in the clients. And I understand that as a money coach who, really helps my clients with the financial cash flow aspect. And a lot of people, before they want to work with me, what they're focused on is making enough money. So they're not ready to work with me on the cash flow to make themselves more profitable or to pay themselves a salary because they're still focused on making money. But once they flip that switch, once their mindset starts to change, that's when they're ready to work with me. And that's when we can actually put a system in place where they're actually going to make way more money. So does it do them good to hire me earlier? Absolutely. Are they going to? Probably not, because that's not their priority. And some people realize that soon and early on, and that's cool, but some don't. And so that was also the thought process I took in the idea of like, do I need to work with a high-end attorney who can create these contracts for me, or can I find something that I know will protect me so I can be like, I'm not, managing your investments and doing all this stuff, and like, I am not a psychologist and I am not your therapist, like that kind of stuff. So I had those bases covered. But at the start of this year, because that had been like 2 to 3 years of me working off of that kind of contract, at the start of this year, I decided I want to give myself permission to fully book out my coaching clients. And in order to do that, I want to have this sense of security and safety. And I knew that this was going to be one of those things that could make me go, yes. And I worked with that attorney who I had then made a significant investment in. We worked together to define even beyond, the I'm not your therapist, I am not managing your investments type of things that need to go in my contract specifically. We had also worked together to define really important boundaries for me. What does it look like when I'm going to work with a client and we're signing a 6-month contract, but I don't want them to carry out their calls for another, to 9 months or to 11 months, like unintentionally, but sometimes that happens. And so we defined a boundary in the contract that says you need to complete these calls within 7 months. And by having that in the contract, you're then protecting and respecting your own time. And if they sign it, they are then holding themselves to that expectation as well. There's a bunch of other things that I have in the contract that I had talked to my attorney about to make sure that I was respecting my time, my energy, even my money, and my clients could come, and when they sign the contract, they are also, holding that expectation too. So that was a big investment that I made at the beginning of the year, and it was really important for me to make that so that I could have something that was really airtight and really solid, and it gave me a sense of like legitimacy, which I don't think necessarily is something I didn't have before, but it really helped me show up as the business owner that I wanted to, which was, hey, I respect my time and here are all the terms in the contract so that you can agree to that. So I did that investment and hired a coach at the same time, and it was hefty, but I was kind of at a point where I was like, I need to do something. I need to shake this up. And so I made those investments, and all together they were just under, and are you ready for this? $16,000. Do you need to make that big of an investment in your business to be successful or have the best year ever? No. But does investing in a coach or investing in, some sort of professional service or whatever that looks like, and paying valuable money for it, could that help you collapse time, get to the results faster, hold you accountable, help you show up and rise to the occasion, help you pay attention because you have skin in the game? Yes, it could. And so investing is something that I've always felt a little bit resistance around in terms of like making these investments in coaches and courses, because I've given the coaches and the courses the power. But I had a really serious conversation with my fiance at the time. He's now my legal husband. We had a really serious conversation before I made this investment. We were in the process of merging finances, still are kind of, because we have a complicated life, but we it was important for me to kind of not necessarily include him in this situation, but be the sounding board for this situation, because technically at the end of the day, it was a business investment, but also my business is me, and that ultimately affects him. So he needs to be a part of this because we've decided to co-finance. And so this investment I needed to run by him, and he has really, really great, ideas and thoughts around it. And he was basically like, you need to commit to this, because you can always bet on yourself. The best investment you can make is on yourself. If you rise to the occasion, you make this investment and you're able to commit fully to the practices and processes that your coach is helping you go through, then you'll know that this is a worthy investment. And I think that's really important when you're trying to figure out like if hiring a coach or purchasing a program is going to be a worthy investment is, are you committed to doing the work no matter how uncomfortable it is, and actually see that through? Like finish the course, implement it, take the resources that you need from it and implement them and see it through. And I would say don't invest in anything beyond that until you've finished this one. So many people, I see so many of my clients investing in professional services where they're not getting the return they need or the results they need because they invest in one, then they invest in another, then they hire a coach, they hire another coach, they have two coaches giving them potentially competing advice, and then they're, buying courses up the wazoo. And, once we have so many things, we can't even focus on the one. So pick the one thing, see it through, commit, and then you can move on to the next thing. But you have to like bookmark or put it in the cart and then close it until you finish the current one that you're on. So that's something that I talked to my fiance about, and I was like, I'm going to commit because I want this business to succeed so much. And so I made that decision. Now with my coach, I was fully booked out. And then what my coach really helped me do was pivot. I had tried to pivot from traditionally employed women to the self-employed a couple of years ago, actually. And very quickly I started getting clients and I felt imposter syndrome and I pivoted back. And part of me wishes like, oh, I wish I would have just stuck with it because I would have been so much further along than I am now in this pivot. But at the same time, I've grown into an entirely different human being now. And so I don't regret it in any way, but I think it is really important to share that I tried to do this pivot by myself before, and I couldn't hold the space for myself to believe that this was a worthwhile choice and decision. And that's something that ultimately my coach was able to do for me, was to hold that space and also just be that sounding board of you're not crazy. And so what if, people drop off? Ultimately, you're pivoting because you're trying to find a more aligned audience that aligns with your lifestyle and where you want to show up and serve. And so people are going to drop off. Expect that. And so there were so many mindset things that I needed help with. I needed coaching and even instructing on. And that's something that my coach was able to show up and provide for me. We also together worked on developing the first ever form of the Payday Party Workshop, which originally I just rebranded the Guilt-Free Spending Workshop into the same thing, but it was a completely different construct. And then I changed the name once I got to the end of my coaching relationship and we were brainstorming on Voxer and we were like, Payday Party. And so I launched the first, ultimately it's the Payday Party Workshop during the spring. And that was really to kind of my coming out party of, hey, I am now working with the self-employed, solo entrepreneur or very small, but growing and scaling entrepreneur business owner women on their finances. And that was something that was really big for me. It was a big deal. It was scary, but thankfully, I had my coach along for that ride to help support and hold that space for me to make that big transition. Because honestly, pivoting is so hard because you're essentially turning your back on all of this work that you've done to say, that is, that's a chapter that's ending. Now I'm focusing somewhere else. And by the way, I've had a handful of people reach out to me now who are interested in working or referring me as a personal finance coach. And I do still have a select few personal finance coaching clients. So I do still offer that. I only work with a handful now at a time, but it is still available because I am still very passionate about supporting all women and men on their financial literacy journey. So if you want to go to my website and go to the Work With Me tab, and you can find the traditionally employed section and then apply through that. But if you're a business owner, we got you too. Okay, so I pivoted, and then what I really wanted to start diving into in the summer of this past year, was the mindset piece. I've been exposed, and I took a mindset group coaching program myself. I went through one a couple of years ago, and it was such a worthwhile investment because it shifted something in me about, and to be transparent, I had a lot of judgments around how other people spent money. And only because I would not allow myself to spend money in the way that other people might spend money. So as an example, on designer things, on designer bags or clothes, I guess. And so I was trying to work on that judgment because I knew that for some reason that could be harmful. Also, I had a lot of guilt around receiving money, and, some ways that I'm able to receive money that feel easy for me, and therefore I don't feel deserving of it. And so I had to do a lot of work around that too. I would say this workshop, this program really helped me with the judgments of money, and really helped me see that, I am triggered by the way other people spend their money. Why is that? And that, again, happened a handful of years ago. But what I was really interested in was, what I didn't get out of that program was the mindset understanding, the scientific basis of how mindset work, how journaling, how meditation, how vision casting, how gratitude practice, how all of that stuff actually works, how tapping, emotional freedom technique, how does that work? And I didn't get that from that program. And I was really interested in it because I knew, even through working with my coaching clients, there's something deeper here. In a lot of ways, we'd be working on something, and I'd be like, wait, you knew that you weren't supposed to buy this, but you still did. There's something deeper here. And that's what I had started kind of dabbling in with the guilt-free spending system program, as well as the Payday Party workshops. But I wanted to start exploring that even deeper, and so I signed up for a certification. There's another big investment. This year, honestly, was the year of big investments in my business. And I don't know if that'll stop, because this year was also one of the best years I've had in business. So just let that be the thing. So I made a big investment in getting certified in neuro-linguistic programming, emotional freedom technique, hypnotherapy, time techniques, and life and success coaching. And I'm officially going to be attending my certification training and be fully certified in 2 weeks' time? Yes, 2 weeks' time. I'm super excited. And with that, if you sign up for next week's webinar, where we're going to dive into how to solve some of the 5 biggest money problems that I see my clients, they're at least facing 1, 2, 3, sometimes all 5 of the money problems that I see them facing, how to solve those without money, how to solve them for free, because it all starts in the mind. So you're going to learn some of the biggest mindset secrets and shifts that you need to make to work on these big 5 money problems and really see the results that you want in 2020. So make sure you sign up for that. You can go to wanderwealthy.com/webinar to get on the list. And there's 3 different time slots that you can sign up for. So it's really great. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but if you haven't listened to the 12 Days of Money Mindset series, you should absolutely go back and listen to that. I think it starts episode 136, I believe. Day 1, at least. Just look for day 1. Anyway, so if you attend that webinar, you're going to find out that I am going to be hosting something really fun starting in 3 weeks' time. And so make sure you attend that webinar or get on the email list somehow, and you'll find out more about that. Just go sign up for the webinar. You can watch the replay, wanderwealthy.com/webinar. So I signed up for my certification in the summer. And some other things that happened this year. In early March, I got engaged. This summer, in July, I got legally married. I had to travel home. My aunt passed away, so I traveled home in the fall and actually played my violin, which I haven't played in years. Not years, probably in a year. But I haven't played publicly in years. I played my violin at her funeral, which was really special and also a little bit nerve-wracking for me. And so a lot of personal life things happened as well. I worked really hard last year, actually a year ago from now, about this time, on my happiness. And I was feeling really uneasy and just kind of uninspired and pretty unhappy in my life and what I had established in Italy with having moved so far away from home and being in, this foreign place and being outside of a big city. So most people don't speak English, and being in an apartment that I didn't pick out or necessarily love. And this year, a year from then, which most of this work happened over the course of 2019, and now we're in 2020 as you're watching and listening to this, but this year or this past year, I haven't felt 1 inch of that kind of sadness or wishing for more, or wishing that it was different. I don't know exactly what happened. I know I did a podcast on this about living in Italy isn't all pasta and meatballs or wine and meatballs or something. But I really did a lot of work around just being happy and grateful for what I have, and also deciding to take action and take control and stop giving, the place that I live control over my happiness, or the town that I live in. Now, what I have struggled more so with this year is I ended up stopped taking Italian lessons, and I developed a little bit of social anxiety, which is weird because as a grown adult who's done, a lot of things on my own, I've been very independent since I was, 18 years. Actually, before then, I was just always off doing things on my own. I've been driving a car since I was 13. We can kind of get away with that stuff in small town Iowa. But I was so independent, and then I moved to a country and into a city where, of course they're not going to speak English, but especially because I was outside of Milan, still am, no one speaks English. And I had to work on, and still to this day, work on my perfectionism around speaking Italian. And so I've developed this social anxiety that, some of the most simple things in my life have become so difficult, and I'm not even sometimes able to do them because I'm so worried or scared of failing, which is really crazy because I do a lot of this stuff in my business and I have no fear of failing in certain ways, and then I can't do them in my personal life when it's like ordering a pizza or answering the door when the Amazon guy is dropping off a package, and it's simply because I feel that I can't communicate. I'm unable to communicate or say the right thing. And that's been something that I've never expected to happen. And I'm really becoming very aware of it and working on it. So anyway, that's an aside in terms of my personal life and what's been going on. But it's been really interesting to experience that along with everything that's going on in business. So legally married in July, had a bunch of more payday parties. We ended up spending all of June, sorry, I'm hopping around a little bit, but all of June in the south of Italy, which was amazing. Did a payday party then went back to the States. I was there for, I think, 3 weeks, got married, then was just there visiting family and working. And this whole time I've really taken work with me and just done it on the road. And I'm so grateful and lucky to have a platform and a job like this. And if I can help anyone build something that allows them that kind of sense of freedom, I'm more than happy to do that. Let me know. And so then in August, that's kind of the big holiday month for Italy. So when we were back here, we actually stayed in town, and it was kind of a crazy euphoria kind of place of like no one is around and it's just you in the city. It was really fun. And then we basically, I guess we were just kind of around. I don't really remember the fall. The fall has been a big blur for me, but we did do a lot. We've been going through a lot of transitions and more so planning and prepping for big transitions. So October, I ended up having to travel back home, like I said, for a funeral. And then when I came back, we both, my now legal husband and I were very kind of drained and stressed and just overwhelmed from not really having a true decompression vacation. So I had been travel hacking or getting credit cards in anticipation for a honeymoon for the two of us in the Maldives. It was a dream vacation that I've always wanted to do. And when I found out that I could use points to book an overwater bungalow, which I didn't end up being able to do that exactly. But when I realized that that was a possibility, I was like, I got to do it. So earlier in January of 2019, I started applying for a couple different credit cards that would get me the Marriott points, because we stayed at a Marriott property, to be able to do this vacation. And I thought we wouldn't be doing this vacation until, 2020, maybe February or March, but an opportunity presented itself. There were really cheap flights from Italy to Malé in the Maldives. And so we booked it, and I happened to have the points already. We just needed to, do the booking. And so it was still something we had to save for, and I have a pretty hefty travel savings account because it's one of my top priorities. I now have worked on my judgments around spending money, around spending money on clothes and purses and more designer things. I mean, a year ago, I would have never bought this like Patagonia sweater, and now I'm wearing it. If you're listening, you can hear me. I'm always wearing it. It's so comfortable, which I think means I'm getting a lot of use out of it, but it doesn't matter. That's one of the things I've learned about my money judgments. But I still have a priority of travel over material possessions. And so most of my savings, other than, going into retirement and whatnot, is for traveling, because that's such a high priority for me to be able to spend time with my family and also to spend time with my now spouse. And also being able to, one of the best gifts I think I give to people is being able to go and see them. And so I always am saving up and trying to figure out how to travel hack so I can travel and visit my friends and my family that live all around the US and now I guess the world. So we saved up for the honeymoon, so it was still probably, I think we ended up spending about $3,000 to $4,000 in cash. But what you don't realize is between two people, a plane ticket it's an international flight. It took 9 hours to get there and back. But then also when you are in the Maldives, they really get you, and you have to pay for the seaplane transfer, which is a ridiculous amount of money. So that's where most of our money went, as well as the food that you have to eat when you're on a deserted island is going to be really expensive. So they know how to get you there. There's obviously ways where you can get around a lot of that, or you can use other travel hacking to do some of that stuff. We could have travel hacked our airline ticket, but we just didn't have the time, and we were really craving this vacation. And it was just the most amazing vacation I think I've ever been on. And it was hard to come back from that, I'll have to say. Okay, getting back to business. we took that vacation rather recently, and then this winter or in December, I really worked on getting ready and preparing the 12 Days of Money Mindset series, which then launched in December and was so much fun to do. Although a little bit of work, it was still well worth it. And now here we are at the new year. So what did the whole year equal to in total? And I haven't done the full numbers. We're, not even quite halfway through December when I'm recording this. But I am projecting to make just over $90,000 in revenue. I share this because I think a lot of people probably think like, oh, you're doing six figures or more because that's what everyone does. And really, for me, I don't need to make six figures. I'd love to make six figures, bring it on. I'd actually love to build a business where I can hire more people. And so the revenue would need to be higher. But at this point, it's not something that I'm shooting for. My purpose-driven revenue goals aren't for six figures necessarily. My biggest one is I create 3 tiers. And obviously the dream tier is multiple six figures, but the need and the want tier is right around, I've hit my want goal of being right around that $90,000 mark. So I surpassed my need goal, and I'm on my way to my want. How I really know that is my need personal income, what I pay myself for my business, is about $40,000 a year. It's about $3,000 a month. And what I ended up paying myself this year from my business was closer to $50,000 a year. Now, this isn't the end-all be-all numbers because I still made significant investments in my business, as I have mentioned. Of that $90,000, I think, for all of my expenses in total, I ended up spending around, and again, these aren't final, but around $40,000. And it's a little less than that, which then means that I have some profit, and also, I've had to set some money aside for taxes. And so this doesn't always add up as you think it would, mainly because a lot of the money, the big investments that I made actually came from savings that were then reinvested from my personal savings into the business. Although eventually someday, and some of the investments I made were from profit. So I have a profit account which builds up throughout the year. Usually after the end of every quarter, I take a portion and spend it on myself personally. But also if I have some money in there that I want to use for making a business investment, like I used the money to hire the attorney from my profit account because I had excess in there because I oversaved on taxes from the year before. So there's so many fun things you can do with the numbers and with the money. But you obviously have to know how to do them and what to do. And working with a coach is really, really helpful. So you can see those fun things that you can do and see where there's opportunity to invest or where some investments aren't paying off. But those are pretty much the full numbers. $90,000 in revenue. I paid myself around $50,000. I reinvested around $23,000. Now that's not everything. I also have other reoccurring expenses for my business, and I've hired some contractors to help me with some work, but that's kind of how the numbers shake out. I think total in a savings account for profit, so this won't be the same as total what you'll see on an income statement, but in an account for profit, I ended up contributing around, I want to say 4,000 or maybe closer to 3,000. But that's how it shakes out. And then I have plenty of money saved for taxes. I've been able to make my quarterly tax payments, the full amounts every single quarter. And then I have more than enough to pay my last quarterly tax payment. And we'll see if I owe any additional, in which I have that saved. And if not, again, from this year, having saved so much in taxes, I'll be able to transfer that over to profit and use some of that again for investing in the business or setting aside in a savings account. Quick interjection, I always record these episodes live, but as I was re-listening to this episode, I realized that I left out a really important aspect, which is the plans that I have or decisions I've made about retirement planning for this year. So I went through a big life change this year, got legally married. Our official ceremony is later on in 2020, but with the legal marriage, my tax situation changes slightly, and that impacts my retirement planning. So I wanted to share kind of what I was doing with that. And I apologize in advance if this is a really technical section for you to listen to, but I do think it's really, really important. If you need more information, and I would encourage you to go back and listen to episode 113, and especially if this section, you've already listened to that episode, but this section is still a little confusing, go re-listen to that and then come back here. I think just getting exposure to these conversations about tax advantage retirement accounts and IRAs and all that stuff is really, really helpful. Just exposure therapy in and of itself. So I wanted to share what my original plan for 2019 was and how it has changed. Now, because my situation has changed, my tax situation has changed as well, in the sense that I met with my accountant and we decided it's probably better if my husband and I file my taxes as married, filing separately. Most people will do it filing jointly, a lot of times because your tax treatment is so much better and so much more beneficial. But because my husband is Italian and he makes money in a different country, there's no reason to subject him to the IRS. And that could just create a lot of headaches and confusion in and of itself. Now, unfortunately for me, my retirement benefits change. And the benefits in the sense that how much I can contribute to an IRA or a Roth IRA is significantly decreased. Basically, if you're married but you file separately, if you make more than $10,000 a year, you don't get any tax benefits from contributing to a Roth IRA or a SEP IRA. If you're married filing jointly or you're single, then usually, unless you make a lot of money, which, is always possible, you get up to $6,000 in 2019 to invest at a tax advantage basis, either tax-free or tax-deferred. All of that went away for me this year because now I am married but filing separately. Now, the other thing that I was using for my self-employed retirement was a SEP IRA, but there are limitations with that. Other than it being super easy to set up and a great starting point, for me, I was a little bit frustrated by being capped at only being able to contribute up to 25% of my profit. Because if I happen to have a lower profit year, but still have money in savings and want to invest it tax advantaged, I'm a little bit more capped in that regard of how much I can invest tax advantaged. Now, I was supplementing that with the Roth IRA. So I had 25% of my profit that I could invest in a SEP IRA and then $6,000 a year for a Roth. But now that has gone away, my benefits through the Roth. And so in meeting with my accountant, we decided that it'd probably be better for me to set up a solo, or also known as an individual 401k. This is there's a little more administrative work to get this set up, but there's not any more fees really that I'm required to pay. And my accountants can handle all the other kind of nitty gritty stuff when it comes to end of year tax filing and whatnot. So for me, it was a really good option because instead of being capped at being able to contribute 25% of my profit, I can invest in a 401k and contribute to it from an employee standpoint, where I can put in up to 100% of my salary, as well as from an employer standpoint, which I think is like up to 25% of the business's profits. So I can contribute as an employee and an employer, which means I'm going to be able to contribute way more than just 25% of my net profits, in which was the case with the SEP IRA. So I'm really happy with this decision because I'm hoping I'll be able to contribute a lot more. And because I was able to pay myself around $50,000 a year this year, but I really only needed about $40,000, and that $40,000 was also inclusive of planning to contribute money to retirement, I have quite a bit extra that I really like to put away for my future. So that's a big change that I've made, and I'd love to expand on this more. I think I'll do something like that maybe after tax time so I can give you the official numbers, because what I always do is I'll contribute throughout the year, but I usually leave it up to my accountants to give me the official amount of money that I should be contributing without, over contributing, which can lead to some issues and headaches. The other thing I wanted to share, I was previously, before I interjected here, talking about profit. And I went right into my plans for 2020, but I forgot to share that I do plan from a cash flow perspective to build up an emergency savings account within my business. I've had a pretty hefty personal emergency savings account, but now I want to create one specifically for my business that will have up to 3 months of my baseline operating expenses, which I've averaged out to be about $1,500 a month, which is really high. I could cut it way down, but I think it's doable for me to get up to a $4,500 emergency savings account. And how I'm going to be doing that is by contributing to my profit account through every payday that I have. I'm going to, at the end of the quarter, take half of my contributions that I made to the profit account and spend it. Like, I still do that. I treat myself. I think every business owner should do that. But the other half is going to sit in that profit account and continue to grow. And then by the end of the year, hopefully I'll have about $4,500 in that account that will now be my new emergency savings account. And I'll probably end up transferring that to a personal savings account so that it is safeguarded outside of my business, and then I can dip into it whenever, I need to if I have a slower month or something. So that's my other plan for 2020 from a cash flow perspective. All right, I think that's it. Let's get back to the live show. Now, my plans for 2020 are to increase this. I'm going to be resetting my purpose-driven revenue goals, the 90,000 revenue. I don't know what that'll shake out to be because I don't know what my personal income will necessarily need to be. The last life update that does impact the business is we are actually moving to Switzerland in early 2020. So that's been a big thing that we've been it's been taking up a lot of time. It's hard to find apartments in Zurich, Switzerland, because 70% of the people that live there rent an apartment. And life is a little bit more expensive there, although taxes are a little less. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But I'm really excited for this new step. I'm also really excited to see what happens in Wander Wealthy. I'm going to be hosting a group coaching program on money mindset in a couple of weeks' time. If you get into the webinar, by going to wanderwealthy.com/webinar, you'll learn all about that. And it's going to be a really intimate program. Only a handful of people will be able to come and join us for that. And then I'll be working on building out more mindset coaching because that's something that's going to be a big focus for 2020, as well as working still with my personal finance and business finance coaching clients. So if you want to work with me this year, reach out now. We'll start setting a plan and a date for when we can work together. You can go to Instagram and DM me at Tess_Wicks, or you can send me an email, tess@wanderwealthy.com, whatever you want to do. Super excited to be working with you. And if you want to set your own purpose-driven revenue goals for this year, go to wanderwealthy.com/roadmap and download the Easy Profit Roadmap, and you'll be able to do the math to back out into your revenue goal. So like I said, I'm going to be resetting mine, reestablishing what that looks like. And by the way, if you want to join me in setting your own purpose-driven revenue goal and creating 3 different tiers of a need, want, and dream goal, as well as getting the proper mindset when you do approach this type of high-level goal setting and planning and projecting for the year, then you should join us for the Payday Party Workshop. We're kicking things off next Monday on January 6th. It's a week-long workshop with 4 live classes that you can attend or rewatch, catch the recordings. But it's a really great intensive way to kick off the new year with really well-defined, purpose-driven revenue goals. So you can get to that by going to wanderwealthy.com/roadmap and downloading the Easy Profit Roadmap, getting a head start, or you can just go to wanderwealthy.com/party and sign up. And we're kicking it off again next Monday, January 6th. And there's actually 3 different levels that you can join depending on your needs and what you're really shooting for. So you can join me in setting our purpose-driven revenue goals. And I hope that this episode has just helped put things in perspective for you, helped you see thought processes that maybe you haven't been exposed to before, helped you learn something new that you might want to take and apply to your life. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm so open to talking things through with you. Again, you can email me, tess@wanderwealthy.com, or send me a DM at tess_wicks. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys are ready for another amazing year. And until I speak with you soon, I hope you wander wealthy.